Viewers, Ukraine's war against Russia has unveiled a new kind of weapon. Drones, these small, cheap machines, some costing just a few $100s, have become the deadliest and the most affordable super weapon on the planet. They've also exposed the empty boasts of would-be mediators like Donald Trump, who's looking like a fool today, complete fool. Donald Trump, who promised quick fixes, but failed to grasp the realities of this high-tech battlefield. Ukraine's drone blitzkrieg, viewers, shows how warfare is changing, why drones are a force to be reckoned with, and why the world must take them seriously. Viewers, drones are not just tools, they are game changers now, as we've seen. Flown like video games, you can say. It can destroy tanks, bunkers, even ships, aircrafts for a fraction of the cost of traditional weapons. These drones have caused up to 70% of Russia's losses in some areas, proving that a $500 drone can outmatch $1 million tank. Viewers, what makes drones so powerful? They are fast, hard to spot, and versatile. They spy on enemies, guide missiles, drop bombs, or even crash into targets like guided munitions. New tricks like drones controlled by fiber optics or guided by AI make them nearly impossible to jam. It's a revolution in how wars are fought. Viewers, drones are rewriting the rules of combat. Big armies, tanks, and jets are losing their edge when a swarm of tiny drones can strike from anywhere. While drones are winning battles, Donald Trump's claim to be the world's best mediator has fallen flat. He has egg on his face. He bragged he could end the war quickly, but his talks with Zelensky and Putin have gone nowhere. In February, you would remember Trump told Zelensky that Ukraine was weak, ignoring how drones have given it real power. His threats to Putin, calling him crazy, etc., and pushing sanctions have not stopped Russian attacks. So what are we talking about? Trump's big talk does not match the reality. Viewers, drones, not deals, are shaping this war. And let's open this up. We have Tom Cooper joining us. He needs no introduction. We have RSN Singh, and we are joined by Xavier Teitelman, former military aviator, aeronautics and defense consultant. Tom, let me start by asking you, first of all, thank you for joining us on Times Now. What do you make of what we've seen in Russia, the drone blitzkrieg by Ukraine?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Very nice to be with all of you today. What do we see? We see a continuation of something that is gradually evolving over the last 3 years already in this war, in the war caused by Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is that Ukrainians were the first to start deploying UAVs for reconnaissance purposes and eventually turned them into potent assault weapon. So this strike from yesterday, that was actually just a sort of peak of a development going on for years already, but in particular of the last 2 or 3 weeks, where the Ukrainians have launched a number of very successful strikes, UAV strikes, deep inside Russia. Just this time they have managed to bring a total of 150 UAVs on commercial trailers deep inside Russia, where they cannot usually reach. Then they have managed to power up these UAVs, take them off out of trailers, fly them to nearby air bases, and to strike with extreme precision.
Right.
On around a dozen. They claim 40 plus, but confirmed there is around a dozen hits on Russian strategic bombers.
You know, Tom, let me ask you this. You know, for people who are watching a broadcast, would you, like to break down what you're saying? By that I mean, were you expecting Ukraine, look at the size of Ukraine on the map, and it is up against Russia. Look what they've done. The world is talking about it.
Well, would I expect? There are plenty of things I do not even dare to say in the public. I'm expecting them. So this is, yes, this is a sort of one of such things. There are even more options, so to say, on hand, or more cards on the table. Essentially, Ukraine is a sort of world superpower in regards of deployment of drones for combat purposes. They're not only using hundreds of drones every day to strike Russian positions along the front line. They are striking up to 40 kilometers behind this front line with small UAVs, so-called FPVs, first-person view drones. They're also deploying drones to strike deeper, up to 1,000 kilometers deep into Russia. One should not forget, however, that they are not doing this with drones alone. They are frequently combining different other weapons in order to suppress, for example, the Russian air defenses, because Russian air defenses are still there and still effective. So it is not like drones are simply passing by and hitting whatever they want to hit.
Right.
On the contrary, Ukrainians are first deploying one wave of drones, oversaturating Russian air defenses, knocking them out, and then are using the second wave of drones to pass through and to hit whatever they want to hit behind the air defenses.
Colonel Ryazan Singh is with us. I'm sure he has a question for you. Yes, Colonel Ryazan.
No, drone technology by itself is nothing great. What has made it deadly is the artificial intelligent and low orbit satellites. And remember, the low orbit satellites are being provided by Elon Musk. So don't forget that part also. You know, Starlink, the Ukraine couldn't have done anything without these, this Starlink satellites. The second thing is that, Pranesh, and where we need to worry is that today's attack that has taken place on those bombers on Tu-160 and Tu-195, you know what has happened? They smuggled these drones over a period of 18 months. And then, they launched it as small drones with those, mortar bombs. Now, this is a scenario which can, to non-state actors, it can be, it can be a great weapon system, for non-state actors. And that is where we have to be very, very, very careful. It is, when we talk of 3 front, what does it, or 2.5 front, what does it do to the 3rd front here? Or anywhere where in the world. So that is a very, very scary situation, what has happened. It is nothing to celebrate. And the Ukrainians have done nothing extraordinary. Why I am saying that? Firstly, they were able to smuggle it inside. And the second is that without Starlink, no drone warfare would have been possible in one part of Ukraine. And there, they have the backing of the Europeans. They can't do it alone. They have, obviously, it is if Elon Musk is providing Starlink.
Let me bring in Tom on that. Tom, what do you make of that assessment about the help of Starlink?
The situation is such that back in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Ukraine had options to enter or sign a contract with several different companies, and eventually it chose Starlink at the time for reasons not yet known. But even before that, there were offers from European companies. And if you check earlier this year, for example, Eurosat has made another offer to Ukraine, and there are actually efforts to get rid of Starlink, because Starlink is due to behavior by Elon Musk. One cannot depend on Starlink being available to Ukraine forever. And there are serious concerns in this regards, both in Ukraine and in Europe, in regards of continuous use of Starlink. So on one side, different European countries are continuing to sponsor the acquisition of Starlink terminals and their supply to Ukraine, and are even paying much of what Ukraine has to pay every single month to Elon Musk, to Starlink. On the other hand, there are serious efforts to stop this.
Tom, just stay with us. Let me bring in Xavier Teitelman. He's been listening to this intently. Mr. Teitelman, how do you assess the strategic impact of the losses on Russian side?
Well, the first point is that Ukraine uses the most simple drones that you can imagine. They just throw drones from trucks, usual trucks, regular trucks. So regarding the technicals, it's not very complicated. But the fact is that they built the whole operation on the Russian soil. They built the drones there, they built the trucks there, and they just recruited local Russian citizens to work for them as if it was normal for them. So it was a nightmare, of course, for the Russian secret services, because they let Ukrainians do everything on their territory, including buying hundreds of ships just because Ukrainians were using the normal data link, I mean the phone link, just to be able to pilot their drones up to the strike. And so it's a major blow to the Russian strategic aviation, because maybe 1/4, maybe as much as 1/3 of the total capability of the country is today destroyed.
But Mr. Xavier, would you like to elaborate on the kind of strategy, technology used by Ukraine?
No, they didn't launch their drones from the Ukrainian territory. They directly built it inside Russia. They built everything just in front of a FSB headquarters in the oblast of Chelyabinsk, in the region of Chelyabinsk, and there they just hired, they officially rented a place to build everything and to build their operation there. They were not even undercover, they officially rent a factory to build it inside Russia. So after that, those trucks, 5 trucks that they built, went around Russia. And they went just nearby the Russian airport, and on the same timing, all the trucks just opened, and on the roof of the trucks, you had just small drones, but it was drones that were able to just reach 10, 15 kilometers. Right. They didn't fly from Ukraine and make 4,000 kilometers. They just took off from the trucks just nearby the target that they had in Russia.
Tom, do you agree with the assessment of Xavier? And let me ask you the question on everyone's mind. What will Putin do? How will the Russians avenge this?
Yes, I do agree with him completely. Perhaps a little bit specification in regards of the Russian strategic bomber fleet. Most of these are actually museum pieces built 25, 30 years ago, whether Tupolev 22 or 95 or 160. Less than a third of them was fully mission capable at any point in time. So this was really a severe blow, because what the Ukrainians have hit are foremost those aircraft that are operational. Regarding your question, excuse me, can you repeat it again?
What will Putin do? How will the Russians avenge this?
What can he do? What kind of weapon has he deployed, or has he not yet deployed against Ukraine, short of nuclear weaponry? So what can he do? He's going to bring in additional ballistic missiles in order to strike whatever Russians deem or consider some kind of word striking. We have seen this last year in summer, when they have targeted 4 hospitals in downtown Kiev. This is scaring people, this is scaring civilians, this is causing massive casualties and causing shock all over Ukraine. This is what he is aiming for, trying to turn the population against the government, against the elected government, one shouldn't forget. The one in Russia is not really elected. So what can he do? Strike even harder? If you check the cities, the towns, the villages, already Russia's called this liberated.
Do you rule out the nuclear escalation? Because many people are talking about it. Can you rule out the nuclear escalation?
No. Yes, I can rule out the nuclear escalation. And there are plenty of reasons for this. First is that the chain of command on the Russian side, that means between Putin and the people actually launching some kind of a missile or loading that missile on an aircraft and releasing it, there are something like 24, 25 people, and Putin can never be sure if all of them would follow his order, just for the start. In the history of Soviet Union, we have had 3 cases where the Soviet leadership has issued an order for deployment of nuclear weapons, and in all 3 cases, the people in question refused to follow this order. They have turned they have found whatever kind of
Right.
excuses just in order not to deploy nuclear weapons. So this is one thing, the thing that we have to keep in mind in this case.
Okay.
And the other is, nobody knows for sure how many Russian nuclear weapons are really operational. There are assessments that as few as 40, perhaps 50 are really operational, which means Russia is no bigger nuclear power than Pakistan, actually. And we have seen recently what has happened to Pakistan.
That's interesting. Colonel Ryazan, you have the last word, so the last minute.
No, see, this is another level of proxy war by the West, and this, TU bombers, TU series of bombers. The Russians never used it against Ukraine. These are strategic bombers that can be used elsewhere in the world, in Europe or somewhere else. So, to that extent, Europe, benefits from it, or the US, not the Ukrainians. He never used. He just used the Russians used fighter aircraft. The second piece of news you must have come across today is that Britain is has announced making of 6 nuclear submarines. So this is some kind of a cold war again going on between Russia and the West, like the Soviet Union days. And this gentleman was talking about democracy. I don't know who created that Orange Revolution. Doesn't he remember how that duly elected government of Yanukovych, endorsed by the entire global community, how he was hounded out of the office? So please don't, nobody should give lectures on all this, that where there is democracy.
People are entitled to their assessment.
We as Indians.
Tom Cooper, Mr. Xavier, Colonel Ryazan Singh, we've run out of time. I thank all of you for joining us and help us explain the nuances of the drone warfare, what the Russians can do, might do, why they may not use the nukes. Let's see how this story unfolds. Thank you very much.